Something came up for me around vulnerability that seems to tie into a lot of what we've been talking about yesterday. That we use our mind to create boxes, to make judgments, to define things, define ourselves, of course, and the world. And that gives us a sense of kind of security. And that can be very subtle, that can be very subconscious, it doesn't have to be loud. And so then this silence that we're all craving for is the willingness to actually be without these walls, to be without definitions, to be without a structure, without knowing how big something is or how long it will take or where am I? Where am I in relation to where everybody else is? How am I showing up? Am I showing up well? Am I saying the right things? Do I look the right way? And it's a beautiful power of mind that actually does help us survive. You need that at a very fundamental level just to survive. But then it turns into a kind of habitual self-protection, a way to protect us from the vulnerability of not knowing, of really having no definition. And that's the challenge of silence, that we all crave it so much. And yet it seems like we have to sacrifice our self-protection in order to directly meet it, to really dissolve into silence. And yet, in the direct experience of it, in actually meeting silence, in actually being willing to go for even just a millisecond, not some length of time, because that would just be another mental structure to say I need to be silent for some period, but just this instant, to be willing to not know anything. And because of the subtlety, you have to be willing to even not know what you do know. to just say, okay, wait a minute, there's some anxiety here or some tension here where maybe there's some protection going on that I'm not even aware of. And what if I don't even know that? To directly experience absolute not knowing, absolute no boundaries, no beginnings, no ends, no walls, no ceilings, no floors. And in that means whatever you were keeping out with your definitions, with your limits, has to flood in. And whatever you were holding in, holding back, has to come out. And so to see that maybe I know for me it's always been neediness for love. Just absolute total neediness for love. I need love. But then I can't show that, because if I show that, people won't love me. So I have to be a little sort of stoic and I have to hold myself in. And that sets up this never-ending kind of separation. Whereas in the willingness to actually have no boundaries and no separation, then this neediness for love can be here. And in fully opening to neediness for love, oh my God, it's like I realize my whole life is about love. My whole life is all about love. And it felt like I've always wanted it. I always wanted it. But it's like, if you had no love, that desire for love wouldn't be there either. It's love that desires love. Isn't it? It's so loving for me to want you to love me. It's like, I want you to love me. That's very loving. It's loving if you open to the rawness of it. But if you hide it and then try to strategize and figure out a way to do it or change the way that you behave to get it, then it's manipulative and it's sticky and it's not vulnerable. And love is extremely vulnerable. At least in the feeling of it. Love itself, not vulnerable at all. Indestructible. So maybe for you it's not neediness for love, it's something else. But it will be the same structure. That if you actually open to this need or this fear or this anger, you'll find that it comes from something deeper. That the anger about not being in control comes from the bliss of not being in control. And it comes from the power of what we can control. Then the silence becomes a kind of solvent. This is something Eli said that I've just always loved. Is that silence is a solvent. It dissolves everything. And that since most of what we bring with us into these retreats, into these meetings is, a sort of garbage bag full of what's wrong with the world and what's wrong with me, that to let it all dissolve, why not? Check and see what you're holding on to. It could be extremely past its use-by date by now. In which case, why hold on to it? So then to let everything dissolve in silence, in not knowing. And the willingness to meet what's here. So it's not a strategy, it's a discovery.